Hi there, you lovely lot, and welcome to the latest episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to be rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Here we are, folks. It's episode 69, and yes, I want that grunk drop of laughing in 69, but I don't have it, and we don't have the funding on the show to cover it anyway. So you just have to deal with myself and him, Chudders. I am Clazzy Clare. Welcome you in. So, Chudders, how are things with you?
Bleh. It's better in some ways, but it's a lot worse in others. How are you feeling, Claire?
A lot worse? A lot worse? Did I hear a lot worse there?
Well, yeah, I mean, are we going to get off it straight off the bat? Because after Ramondre Stevenson had a great game and we said how wonderful it was, I think last week we said how wonderful it was that he'd stopped dropping the ball. His handling had been so much better, and then bang, sure enough, 5 turnovers.
Mm-hmm. He won us a game and then he potentially lost us a game. So, in your eyes, then, so we'll go straight into. I know you like to do offense, defense, and special teams because we have to be so regimented on here, really. But yeah, so we'll hit it. Stevenson, are you done with him? Do you believe he should now be off? He should now be benched off the team. There is lots of cries of trading
off the
him
team. No.
For the veteran.
Trading him, you're not going to get anything really for him, to be honest.
Okay, no, but switching him out for another vet sort of thing. There's lots of outcry. So where do you sit on Stevenson's scale?
I sit in the he needs to swap roles with Gibson or potentially even Henderson, who all three of them obviously have their issues. Gibson's probably the best option of the three at the moment, but obviously you thought that Sunday, I should think, after Stevenson has dropped 2, you thought, right, switch it, make it Gibson. He comes in and straight away he fumbles it as well. So you got Henderson who's been giving up penalties. You've got Gibson who's just dropped 1. You got Stevenson who's just dropped 2, which is the least of your worries, I guess, at the moment is the way to be going with it. Sadly, it's not someone winning the job. It's probably 2 other people losing it.
So the running game is the least of the worries at the moment. Is that what you're saying?
No, definitely not. It's probably up there with the most, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just the running backs. I think it's the whole run game. I think the O-line needs to be doing more.
Is Henderson too aggressive? Does he hit too much or take hits too much? Is he too outwardly aggressive?
I don't mind him being aggressive. It's being controlled. And being able to make the right hits in the right way with the right timing and not being called for penalties. I don't mind aggressive players. It's an aggressive sport. Body craves contact. But you need to do it in the right controlled manner, and that's where he's failed.
So what else do you have any positives on the offense, or are you just going negative on the offense?
So yeah, I mean, Drake May had a good game, apart from 2 elements that you could say arguably cost us the game. He's very much valid to be on a good list and a bad list. It feels like my feeling coming out of the game was, as part of the long-term project of turning the Pats around, this was a very strong performance. There's a lot of positives to see out of this. There's some connections, some great play, some good reads from Drake May. However, as part of the short term being able to win football games, there was a lot of negatives there, sadly. It was just really frustrating. I was really angry losing that game on Sunday because personally, if you told us we're only going to win 1 game all season, this is a game I would have chosen because I don't like Rodgers and I don't like the Steelers. So yeah, on a personal perspective, just losing it is frustrating to me.
Yeah.
It was an incredibly winnable game. I don't think the Steelers are any good. It's frustrating. We've played what I think are 3 bad teams and we've come out of it 1 and 2. That's worrying. We're not playing yet the good teams in the AFC or the good teams in the NFL. We're not playing them yet, and we've lost 2 out of 3. That's worrying to me. I see some positives. It's not completely all negative and doom is gloom, and we're going to be picking number one, and fire May, get Mayo's fire Vrabel. It's not the path forward. It's the right path forward, but as you can see, we're a long way from being there yet. A long way from being contenders in the division, I think, and contenders in some sort of postseason. It's not to say they can't turn it around or they won't turn it around. Potentially, they could even this season if they play like they did Sunday with zero mistakes. Then they're going to be a very competitive football team. But you've not seen enough evidence yet over these 3 games that they are going to be a consistently good football team.
Yeah, they did everything better. They did everything better than Pittsburgh, really, other than score. And we really should have been looking at a 28-21. Is it 20? No, sorry.
Because they're in the red zone twice.
20, we should have been. Yeah, the way that the turnovers and stuff, the scoreline should have been at least 28-21, as we were sitting here. So, yeah, it's frustrating. Like you said, it was one of the games that I would choose as a fan to win because of hating the Steelers, because of hating Rodgers. The positive is, I know you don't really want me to do that. Oh, actually, you know what? I won't.
No, I do. No do positives.
No, that's it. There's no positives.
Go for it.
Sucks.
Come on, what's your positives?
The way to look at it, I think, when we sat here last year and we looked at the season, it was difficult to try and find the positives and look at what we were going to build on. I still tried to do it because that's kind of the role that I tried to take. And we talked about, the potential of Drake May, what we've got to look forward to, that kind of thing. And at that point, we didn't have Vrabel. So at that point, we were questioning plenty of our coaching choices as well. So it was difficult last season to isolate the positives, even though we did try. At least now, we're only 3 games into the season anyway. So we're 3 games into a brand new everything, a brand new coaching situation, a brand new situation for Drake May, with a quarterback that's only had 16 NFL starts in his career. He's 23 years old. He's still quite raw. So I see, look, you've got a mocking face. I'm gone then. That's not true then.
I see that as 16 starts. You should be doing better. Okay. I don't know how long we keep going. You're a season and a bit now in where you've been the number one. Realistically, since you were signed, you were the number one. And I know he did not start. He wasn't the number one starter at the start of last season, but he was still the number one quarterback. He wasn't quite ready yet. You can argue, and we did last year, as to whether he should have started week 1. Mm-hmm. And my opinion of that. But I don't know how long you can give, and I don't mean you, I mean in general, the fans, the media, whatever. I don't know how long you can give people a cut off of, oh, well, it's not long enough yet to judge you. In my mind, I wasn't
necessarily saying it wasn't long enough to judge him. That's not what I was saying. I was saying he's 3 games into his season under McDaniels. He's 16 games into his NFL career. He is still raw. We are still seeing issues. We're also seeing some really good points by him. He threw decisively. He saw coverage well. He hit a few nice anticipated throws. He also fumbled the ball. So it's a case of do we not have a good product?
He was lucky. The other thing, he was lucky. He only got picked once, and it was very costly because, like you said, that was 7 points it took off the board. Mm-hmm. Pretty much. You'd like to look at the way at that, in your calculation there. He was lucky to not have been picked off before that as well. Mm-hmm. He could have had 2 or 3. I think he hit hands comfortably twice that were just dropped. That was a mistake by the DBs, not because of unluckiness or anything else. They should have caught those balls. the ceiling that we've seen is a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We've still not seen that great performance. What we've seen of his ceiling, you hope is not his ceiling. What we've seen of his floor, you want to see a lot higher than that if you want a franchise quarterback. To almost contradict myself, yeah, we are only 16 games into it. The sample size, in no way am I saying get rid of him or replace him or go back in the draft next year or anything like that. But we've still not seen what we want to see out of that franchise quarterback. It's yet
So you
to
want
be
it both.
delivered.
You can't use that both ways. You can't use it as you criticize me for using it and then use it yourself, though.
No, it was kind of to defend my point that I'm not trying to say get rid of him, but I'm also not trying to say he's got a free pass.
Mm-hmm.
He's not got a free pass for his mistakes in my mind.
No.
I expect him to be cutting out those mistakes by now. Whoever your offensive coordinator doesn't impact some of the throws that he was making. That was his own decisions. The fact that you're 3 games into a season with a new OC, that's not affecting some of the choices he was making, I don't think. That's my fear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not out on him in any way,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also not cutting him any free passes anymore either.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind.
I mean, obviously, it is a different range of opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good. And everyone's going to find a different way. You got people who are already far against him and are totally out on him, and like you say with Stevenson as well. And I kind of get it a bit more with Stevenson, and people who fully back him to the hilt. And it's about having that range of feelings, emotions as fans.
I think for me, May he is still raw, and it's not ideal. And like you said, the floor that we've seen, we hope it is the floor, and the ceiling could be raised.
I hope the floor's raised. Because that's what with the elite quarterbacks, their flaws, their off days, their bad days, they're still competitive and can win games. You just seen it with Aaron Rodgers. He looks, by his standards, washed. He didn't have a good game, but he moved the ball well enough to get them the points to win the game. He's got to be coming. He's got to be coming out of the season thinking, or these games thinking,
just mess up
come on, a bit fortunate. Well, we did mess up too much, but he found the way to still put enough points on the board to win the game. They didn't win 6-3. He's getting enough points that got them the victory. He wasn't the reason they lost. You could argue, and I don't think this is the reason, but one could argue, if you're of that decline, our quarterback is the reason we didn't win the game. With 2 turnovers.
Okay.
And so that floor that we currently have needs to be raised a lot more in my mind. And so does the ceiling.
I think the point I was trying to make on it is, he's still raw, and I know it's frustrating, but he's in arguably one of the best offensive coordinators that there is. And we know May's got potential, and it's an unfortunate situation to be the second year in, but it's just it still feels to me an element of patience.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Now, I get, like you said, it's his second year, so there's plenty of people that have run out of patience with him now, and I understand. Again, we sort of, it's always you found your way, you've got your own opinion, that kind of thing. I am still here being okay with some of the excuses of but he's still raw and things like that. And no, I'm not expecting you to be. I'm just voicing my opinion on the matter, and that's where I am on it at the moment. Frustrating. I was really frustrated at the end of the game. Of course, as I said, they did everything better than the Steelers other than score, and that's the one thing that you need to do better to win a game, and it's unfortunate, but I do still feel it's early in the season, and I'm not okay with the loss, but I'm okay with where we are, as long as it feels like it can move forward. And I still feel like it's moving forward for the simple fact that May did do well in those, as I said, he threw decisively, he saw coverage and things like that. If we were looking at it and he was turning the ball over and we weren't seeing those things, we'd have less to look at to feel like a prediction. The O-line last game were really good. Took maybe a little bit of a drop down, but we know that there's rookies in there that we can look at for our future. Not everybody feels the same.
The O-line, like your 10% is better than last year. The O-line isn't the reason you're losing games at the moment. It could, again, that can still be better. I'm not saying it's honed, it's perfect, it's ready, it doesn't need improvement. It does. But the O-line is not the reason you're losing games. And I think that was one of the strongest reasons you were losing games last year. Yeah, it's not now. Like you say, it's about putting Drake May in the best position to be in. I think from an offensive coordinator position, he is in the best position he can be in with Josh. His O-line is good enough. It could still be better, but it's good enough. He's not getting sacked every 2 minutes. He's getting a lot more pressures still than you'd like. But for me, it's good enough to be performing. You could argue talent on offense, wide receivers, is that there? And we've said this for a while, but are you still lacking a true elite number one that can hopefully then raise the positions of those around him as well? If you've got someone who's drawing coverage, that could be improved. But ultimately, he's in a position now where there's few caveats to his performance. Oh yeah, but he hasn't got an O-line. Oh yeah, but we don't. He's got Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator, which I know he's never had, but obviously the last alleged franchise quarterback did have that issue. There's fewer and fewer yeah buts now with Drake May, so now we need him to be reaching that potential. And like you said, as part of the longer term project, I think we saw some of that on Sunday. As part of the short term winning football games, it wasn't. It cost us. He's tried to do too much on that fumble, and instead of getting rid of the ball, and then with the pass in the end zone's taken 7 points off the board. There was a couple of other bad throws. Short term winning football games, there's a bit to be done. Longer term improvement trajectory is there. Right? Should we try and stop talking quarterback? And we could for a long time. I think
the defense bit. You might want to move.
Well, is there anything else on offense? I assume you're obviously very happy with Hunter Henry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
Of course.
Him still being his binky is obviously a positive. I suppose you could also look at it as a negative because he's only got, he's having to rely on him quite excessively. But I think that's another conversation for another program, else we'll completely run out of time and we won't have covered the defense and special teams because I know you like to go very regimented through things. So yes, Hunter Henry was the highlight of the game for me, I guess. But excellent. That's obvious anyway because he's a tight end. So
one question I was going to have on you for offense, and I think I can't remember the exact stat now, but I think it's some sort of record for the start of the season for the amount of receivers that Drake May's been distributing to in each game. And I think he's in every game so far, he's distributed the ball to at least 8 different players. Do you have any thoughts on that as a strategy? Because it's obviously showing there isn't just, 2, 3, 4 core receivers that you're targeting. He's obviously spreading the ball around a lot to a lot of different players. Did you have any thoughts on that?
In a negative way, in a positive way?
Positive, either way. Because in my mind, that's probably more to do with Josh and the schemes he's drawing up, the players he's wanting to utilize in different positions. But I guess, does that in any way hamper the offense or Drake's development, because he's obviously needing to build a relationship with 8-9 players in their receiving games rather than concentrating solely on 3-4?
No, I think like you said, I would have definitely, if you hadn't mentioned it, said it's I feel it might be a scheme thing by McDaniels.
Mm.
Feels like it's reducing predictability of the offense, because the worry is when you're limited, when you don't have sort of the number one receiver, you don't have the guy that's going to break coverage really easily. Yeah, that's not a slight against any of the receivers that they've got, because I think they have got some quite decent ones, to be honest with you. And the tight ends are also good tight ends. So I think it's just a case of they don't have that number one diva wide receiver superstar, but they have a collection of good players. So it's spreading around, and May's assessing the field. And some of it's he's throwing to the guys that are open. Is he? So is it just a case of it's drawing coverage all around as well? So it shows that is the scheme working, is that May's going to several different guys, because defenses aren't quite sure who's going to necessarily need to be covered, and that ultimately spreads the defense a lot more. So I don't see it as an issue per se, but I understand what you're saying of making the connection. But I think that it sort of feels like, whether or not it's a May thing or what, that he's got plenty of connections with plenty of the players, it feels. Now, obviously, that's just an opinion thing. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know. I don't see them laughing it up or whatever. But I don't see that it's diluting, because there's more of them. It's diluting the connections. It's just that there are plenty. That's just how I'm foreseeing it, though, at the moment. Do you have a different take on it then?
No. I think
they need to go on defense.
I think that's pretty fair. The one thing I'd say is, and I don't know whether this is because of his individual play, because the connection's not just yet, because he's never open, but I think we were probably hoping to get more out of Diggs than we have been. He's steady option, 3 for 3 for 23 at the weekend, but he's not starting to stand out. He's not really standing out as a receiver in this offense yet.
Take into consideration he only took just over 50% of the snaps, though. Obviously, you'd take from that maybe they're easing him in coming off an injury.
Yeah, quite possibly.
If they're easing him in and he's not on the field, he can't catch passes. If you see what I mean. So that's why I looked at.
You could very well be right. It's whatever the reason is. Diggs is not yet a focal point of this. If you are a defensive coordinator this week for the Panthers, you're probably not saying, right, number one guy on our board, that's Stefan Diggs. Look what he's doing. There's no one yet that you're having to circle to say, this is the guy we have to shut down. You're making it, at the moment, you're making it easier for defensive coordinators against you, because you're not making any serious threats. I mean, you could argue, therefore, they need to take everyone out because there's no one person to concentrate on. But you'd like to think you'd end up with some weapons that need to be targeted to make it harder for defensive coordinators. Speaking of defensive coordinators, then shall we move on to the defense? How did you feel that performance was at the weekend?
Not the best, not the worst. Unfortunately, Alex Austin is dropping down the charts. As I had high hopes for him. I'm concerned now, in all fairness.
That's fair. No, I think that's fair.
But I do want to add, sorry, I apologise interrupting you. I do want to add quickly that Spillane may be on the up a little bit, though. I've been concerned about him in the last 2 games. Whilst they didn't win and there's still issues and XYZ, I think he's on his upward trajectory now. He's one of those upward trajectory guys, perhaps. Yeah.
And you can touch on now my underrated player of the day. That's who it was. 10 tackles, 5 assists, tackle for loss, and an interception. That's the sort of high energy performance, high productivity performance we wanted to see out of him for a while. So I was really pleased to see that game out of him, because that's what we thought we were getting, I think, when we signed him. So to see that now come to fruition was pleasing to see. To touch back on you, Alex Austin, the secondary is missing Gonzo. I think you really are missing him. I'm obviously he trained for part of last week. He was a doubtful or maybe questionable for the game, which obviously turned into out on Saturday. I think it was. Hopefully that improves this week. He trains a bit more. Maybe he is ready, even if it's maybe a bit like Diggs. He's not necessarily out there for 100% of the snaps on defense, but can you get him out there for some packages where you think it's key on passing downs, and see if you can maybe try and get him back into some game day reps?
Yeah. Penalties as well. Another.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I mean, I think there was it Austin that was called for a holding penalty that I didn't think should have been given.
There was a couple of bad calls by the officials. There was some calls that were unfortunate, but then there was some really just pathetic ones that it felt like they're just flexing against the Patriots. The officials were.
I'm going to push back on that because the Pats were lucky. There was some calls that they got away with as well, some holding penalties and things. I think there was a 4th and 1. I think there was a 4th and 1 where May scrambled for the first down, and it should have been a holding penalty against the Pats. The officiating wasn't great. They let
TJ Watt get away with too much. Apologies for interrupting, but yeah, that was one thing I wanted to say. They let TJ Watt get away with way too much offside in the neutral zone, that kind of thing. And that's when he got the sack on May. He was offside and he got the sack, and they just left it alone. And I must admit, wasn't very happy with the whole, because his brother's in the booth, they'll just let him get away with plenty this time. Wasn't very impressed with that, I must admit. I have that in my notes. That's how unimpressed I was.
That's fine. I didn't think the officiating was great. I rarely do. I guess it's only when they're quiet days. You don't really say someone officiated that game really well. It's either they're quiet or they make mistakes. And I think this was a game where they made mistakes, to be honest. But I think it was both sides. I don't think the Pats were the destroyed recipients.
They need to work on that. The Pats definitely need to work on their penalty issue. But I do feel that it was a little bit biased towards the Steelers. As I said, they were flexing against the Patriots, and particularly Watt. That's my 2 cents on that matter. But
fair enough. Any more on defense you'd like to mention?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
We're running out of time anyway.
Special teams. So Barringer only had one punt, and that went out of bounds. But and also the reason he only had one punt is because you turned the ball over 5 times as well. So that probably takes away some opportunities that may have come to that. Kicks are all made.
Hit home with a negative, shall we?
Yeah, it's true. Let's double down. Any more on special teams?
No, I have no special teams notes this week, actually. I have nothing.
Wonderful. They weren't exceptional. They weren't the problem either.
Yeah, that's it.
I think there's greater problems.
They're in the neutral zone.
Penalties and turnovers are what that's fundamentals of football. That's what you feel is like the basics. Don't do those things. Getting open is a challenge. But making your throws is a challenge, even the pressures, whatever else. But just don't make penalties and don't fumble the ball security. Don't have turnovers, and you can win games. And it's really disappointing. You'd think and it obviously is the elements that Vrabel will be firing home so hard, but we need to make sure that that's executed now. Whatever drills you want to do, however you want to, really hammer it home, get it into your team, improve technique in holding the ball or running with the ball or in the trenches for getting your blocks off properly so that players aren't getting anywhere near the ball carrier. Whatever it is, It's got to improve because you can't have more games like that. You're going to lose more and more games when you turn over, making better decisions.
And you also need to predict a loss because the last 2 wins you've predicted have been losses. So, yeah.
There we go. It's my bad juju. So, moving on then. Panthers this weekend. Another home game. Are you feeling confident, Claire?
Yeah.
How confident are you feeling, Claire?
There.
So is that what,
In
5
the box,
out of 10?
About there. No, about 7.
Okay, 7.
8.
7. Okay.
I've
8.
predicted a win on this game. Like you said, the things that we're complaining about are football things. So things that we feel that we believe as fans they can get right. Now I know it's easy to sit at home in your jerseys and just, tell them to do good football. But like you said, the turnovers, the penalties, things that are fundamental football. So, and under Vrabel, I'm very confident that it's something that can be sort of fixable. So I'm predicting a win.
I think what you've got is a lot of players with things to prove this week. Stevenson, whatever touches he gets, he needs to prove he's got the ball security. Some ways for Gibson. Same for Drake May. They've got something to prove there. For the O-line, they've got to prove they can really get this run game going, protect the ball.
Yeah.
There's players with, even Pop Douglas has got to prove his decision making's improved because that last drive where he could have, by all accounts, he should have been able to have got that first down, but he just stopped and decided to go backwards instead of falling forwards, probably into a tackle, but falling forwards to get that ball, that extra 6 inches that would have got the first down was a bad decision that cost that drive. I'm not saying that cost you the whole game. It cost you that drive, which was the drive to try and get some points to tie it up. There's players with something to prove this week. And
Agreed.
I would like to think they're going to go out and prove it. So did you make a scoreline prediction? Sorry.
23-15 Patriots.
23-15. That's an interesting number. How are they getting 15? 5 field goals? What was that?
I don't know. I didn't know there was going to be maths.
Okay.
I know no math. No, maybe a missed extra point and a field goal. 2 missed extra points and a field goal. There you go.
2. Okay. Okay. Yeah. What a day this is going to be.
I know. Predict chaos.
So, I do think the Pats will win. I do think they'll come out with something to prove, and I think they're going to come out and play hard because they've got a coach who's really going to drive that into them. This is a coach who's going to put fire in their belly this week to go out there and prove something to him, to the fans, to everyone, to the NFL. Prove that we're a team to be feared.
Yeah.
A team that is going to fight you all day, every day, and make you force that win because we handed that team. We handed the Steelers a win last week.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah. Agreed.
They didn't fight hard for that. So I do think the Pats are going to win. I do think they're going to start switching it on offense, protecting the ball better. I've got a feeling the Pats are going to put up 30 points this week. So I'm going to say the Pats are going to score 34 points to 20 for the Panthers.
Okay.
34-20 victory, which means they're going to lose, and you can blame me next week. But no, 34-20 victory I'm going for.
Very cool. Very cool.
Panthers, to be fair, I thought nothing of them. I thought they were a contender for the number 1 pick, but they had a good week last week. They win 30-0. 30-0, I think, last week.
30-0 against the Falcons. They did.
I don't rate the Falcons incredibly highly, but that was still an impressive victory, to be fair.
Chaos ensues.
Anything else before we close out, Claire?
I'm good.
Excellent.
So there you have it, folks. Another edition of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Again, please don't forget to be subscribing to said YouTube channel so that you do not miss an episode of this chaos. So here we are, episode 69, episode 70 next week. So tune in next week, folks. And as always, go Pats.
LFG.